Hello, everyone, and welcome to Find the Helpers. I'm Christian Campbell,
And I'm Brad Bogus. And we are here to talk
and
all things resisting fascism, right? Find the Helpers is a really cool project for Christian and I because it's our opportunity to take a journey on like, how do we fight back? We don't know what to do. We want to know what to do. And sometimes the best answers are found by the people who are actually out there doing it, right? So that's what Find the Helpers is all about. Christian, how have you been going on this week?
it's been good. It's been good. I'm continuing in my journey of coming home. Actually, I don't know if you're just kind of tuning into this. About just over 4 weeks ago, I picked up my family and moved back to Canada. And it was a very fast decision, and it was a whirlwind, basically, between the decision to make the move and walking into the new place that we rented up here in Toronto was 25 days. So my wife and I, we
Yeah.
moved very quickly. We were engaged 2 weeks after we met and married 5 months later. And that was 15 years ago. We're very quick but we've been
Love it.
monitoring sort of like what are red lines for us. And my wife's, she's born in the United States, but had a Canadian mom, and so the transition was easy because I'm Canadian, and it was
Yeah.
30 years this year that I've been in the United States, and coming home has been it's a constantly kind of evolving experience for me, and it's
Yeah.
been and it's made me feel a lot of I'm kind of having I'd have to say I'm having survivor's guilt right now
Mm.
because coming here and feeling my shoulders dropping and feeling the tension dropping, both for my wife and I, and just realizing how tense we were stateside for how many
Yeah.
years. And I need to, qualify this by saying that my wife and I lived in an amazing community. Like if you're going to live in the United States, it could not be better. Beacon, New York is where we had made our life for basically the past 10 years. Before that, it was New York City, and Beacon's just north of New York. And it's an incredible community of artists and just great thinkers and creative people and a lot of activism there and
Yeah.
a real sense of like the kind of community we all yearn for, where you know your neighbors and you know what everyone is capable of doing, and we're all helping each other out. And that is, I think, what made it so difficult for us to leave for so many years was just like it was almost like you're in a relationship and you're afraid that you'll never have a relationship as good as this again for the
Yeah.
rest of your life because
Yeah.
that thing it's hard to get
Because
out of a
even in
bad
that bubble, you
relationship.
can't escape the heaviness of where the nation is, right? Like it's in your
No,
face at all times.
yeah, and but even in that bubble, even in that great community, because we were this little blue dot in a sort of a red area, because
Yeah.
it's not technically upstate New York, it's a Hudson Valley, but as soon as you leave the city limits of Beacon, things start going purple and then red real fast.
Right. Right.
And so those people are driving their trucks down the street. They're doing their intimidating flag parades and their
Hmm.
all the other stuff that people know all throughout the United States and towns all over the US and and through the heartland. And feeling that. And we had some episodes, and then it was an ice raid that happened in our town that
Yeah.
not even our mayor knew about. My mayor was my neighbor. The mayor was my neighbor, and he didn't
Wow.
even know this was going to happen. And then we all met in a basement of a church the night of that ice raid, and after they had taken some people away, and their community was down in that basement. There were about 50 of us, and this is when the signal groups started up, and just that tension, and I think that was sort of
Yeah.
red line for me because I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and I thought, okay, and this is the other thing is that my wife and I, we also are fighters, right? We wanted to stay, and like, what can we do? And we're storytellers, and how can we help the U.S.? And we feel like a lot of the work that we do through storytelling and through filmmaking and all that is all we're always looking to do things that contribute and help. But we kept having so many American friends just looking to us and going like, what the hell are you still doing here? Like, if I
Right.
had the passports that you have, I'd, what are you trying to prove here? Get the hell out. And these were
Yeah.
our American friends. And that was sort of, and then when those, after those ice raids, that's when we got up here. So I'm dealing with survivor's guilt because it's also when you're up in Canada and you see how it could be. I just feel for all my American brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
like it's just so close. And yet it is, on the one hand, it is so close what can be achieved, and yet it feels impossibly infinitely far away right now.
It's
And
been
and
cool
kind
watching your
of,
content because I've seen you wrestle with this a bit, right? Like
yeah,
you're starting to flare up some Canadian pride, and then you're also meeting it with
yeah.
Canadian criticism because,
Hmm.
as you recently aptly pointed out, like Canada is not that far away from where we are, right? Canada's just a
No,
little ahead of us, but they're still in the same slide, right? There's still that same contingency. Fuck, there's fucking MAGA all over Canada. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like it
no,
doesn't
no, it
make
doesn't
any
make.
sense, but it exists because it exists
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Yeah, there are no
It
bubbles.
exists everywhere. And that's the whole thing is that, I don't want to get on sort of like the high horse of, oh, Canada, look how much better we are, because there's just as many douchebags in Canada as there are in the United States percentage wise. But I think what it is that when you have systems that allow the douchebags to float to the top and there are no checks and balances that kind of keep them,
Yeah.
that's the difference with the United States is that you've got kind of the awful people, the cranks,
We have the
as
douchebag
that
floating
has.
system.
Yeah, it really just kind of elevates that. Whereas in the United States, I mean, in Canada, it's no, they don't put up with that kind of crap. Anyway, it's been very pleasant. Just all my interactions with Canadians, it truly is. They're just nice people. Oh my
Yeah,
God. And
it's true.
even when you know that they might be on the different spectrum politically, and I've got some family members that are, it's just the tension with my Canadian family members who are on the other end of the spectrum is so much different than my American family members.
Yeah.
It's when I'm going into battle with my American family members, whereas my Canadian,
Yeah.
there's love. There's still love there, and there's a cheerfulness, and we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna be nice to one another.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I've been dealing with is a bit of survivor's guilt right now. And at the same time, I'm feeling like my voice is going to probably get a little more active because I'm up here and
Yeah.
I feel safe. I
Well,
feel
that's
safe,
really like, I mean, I really hate all the parallels to The Handmaid's Tale that are made often, and yet, art does speak to people about the danger of certain things, and in that respect, The Handmaid's Tale is doing an incredible job of at least awakening the middle and letting them know, like, hey, this is coming and this is where we're at. And you see JD Vance saying now that he wants to impose checks on women every time they leave a state to make sure if they're pregnant, and then when they come back to see if they're still pregnant. That's something he actually literally said, right? So like, you know, that art's really awfully parallel right now. But in that story, it's the Canadians that were ushering, it was like you talk about your opa and the Dutch resistance. Like the
Mhm.
Canadians serve as the safe haven, as the activists trying to fight and liberate the people of the United States, of Gilead in the story. Uh,
Yeah.
so being in Canada means you now have the opportunity to be, braver, to stand up and like help us in the United States to, get those stories out there. And it's a pretty, I mean, it's a necessary thing. There's no, I would not be feeling survivor's guilt about that ability,
And then I
Yeah.
told my daughter this morning that I was about to talk to people who fight against the bad kings. And I said, she was like, "You mean Donald Trump?" I was like, "Yeah, we're going to be talking to someone who I do this show now, and we talk to people who are fighting the bad king." And she says, "Oh yeah, that's good." And it's like, "Yeah, well, actually, it's not a bad king. We call it fascism." And she was like, "That word's too pretty. Just fascism is too nice a word. Call them poopy people." So maybe we need to change our podcast name.
Let's talk about people fighting the poopy people. I love this.
Exactly.
Speaking
Yeah.
of, we've got a great guest who is fighting the poopy people today. Christian, would you like to introduce him?
All right, everyone. Today, I'm excited about this interview. I'm hoping to learn a lot. Today, we are joined by Aaron Urbanski. He's a Nebraska man with a long history of direct action resistance from the Occupy movement to on the ground community work. He believes that bravery is contagious, and we believe that he is brave. Aaron's got a crazy story, and I want to let him introduce himself, and he's going to get into that. So, Aaron, hello. Welcome,
He-
and why don't you share a bit about
Welcome,
yourself?
Aaron.
Hello, thank you, Christian, Brad. Appreciate being on the show. Yeah, my name's Aaron Urbanski. Been a long time activist organizer, whether it be from Occupy Wall Street to the George Floyd uprising to today with actions against ICE. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
When we say that Aaron is engaging in acts of bravery, for the sake of for bravery being contagious, the types of bravery we're talking about are at this level, right? So, when a lot of us look at what's happening right now, there's a lot of just general fear, right? Like, should I show up to this protest? Will I be fired upon by the police? Will counter protesters attack us? Right? There's all these different questions I think that a lot of people who haven't been involved in this work for a very long time have. And I want to touch on the Occupy movement because that's kind of where your story in this narrative starts. Um, and I recall the Occupy movement as a moment of awakening for me, where I saw mass acts of bravery, people doing things I never thought people would do, right? Just like camping in the middle of a public park, like we claim this. This is ours now. And I remember when I first saw this story break, it was through social media tools. It was through activist friends of mine who were reporting on what was happening, journalist friends of mine that were independent and underground and kind of just talking about what was happening on the ground. And I remember saying, I was with my in-laws in Pennsylvania and I was looking at my Facebook feed and I said, holy shit, there's a massive thing happening right now in the United States and no one in the mainstream media is talking about it whatsoever. Like, this story is not being covered. How could they not be talking about this? This is a big deal, right? So I think there was a major paradigm shift in the nation as it related to activism and protest. Tell us a little bit, Aaron, about what it was like getting involved in that movement early on, how the communication and organization took part, like how that happened via digital tools before the mainstream media ever took over the
Yeah,
narrative.
yeah. So I saw the call to action through the Adbusters magazine, and I was kind of I was aware of it like the month leading up to it. I think September 17th, 2011 was when it kicked off. And I remember watching the live stream that day of when those core organizers first arrived to Zuccotti Park and were
Yeah,
just like, establishing the occupation. And I remember thinking this is going to be huge. This is like so like this is something. And and then all the chatter online really picked up, and I think it brought first off just it really merged this like physical space into the online kind of organizing, and I think that it had like a hybrid model that really took off. And Yeah, so it was mostly like I remember through Twitter was a really important tool, and that was kind of like the I think the primary way of communication back then. And the live streams, that was kind of a phenomenon back then. Live streams were a big thing, and
that's right.
a lot of like on the ground, like I just remember during marches, like there would be people who would watch the live streams to monitor police movements, and then like on Twitter would be have like special hashtags to like indicate where they're trying to kettle them, and they would just like be able to move like a murmuration, like it would just like they wouldn't be able to predict where we were going, but like we were always like navigating out of the kettles and they just couldn't figure out how. It's like, but it was but yeah, like moving as one organism was pretty cool. Like I felt like Twitter really
Yeah.
gave that power to us, and the power of the hashtag is, and that's been defanged, just I feel like after Occupy Wall Street they really re-engineered all of it just to tamp down on our ability to organize in such an organic way. So
Yeah. But you found out about it by a magazine. That's
yeah.
that's a trip.
Yeah, Adbusters. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I they had a digital presence, but yeah, it was that magazine. But Canadians too. Yeah, Christian. um, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, and so I was kind of watching what was going on, and that first week, and I was just seeing all the different encampments pop up, like sync, like synchronizing, and like it was neat, just like seeing them communicate and everything. And like I was like, well, we got to get one here. And I'm from Omaha, and um, by the time I was even thinking it was already started. And like
Oh
and
yeah.
there's just I like how it was so thoroughly, like, it was organized by anarchists and like very anti-capitalist, but it was also like times were a little bit different back in 2011. Like, it wasn't so divided in terms of like the political windows, like, or the, what do you call that, the Overton window, it was like a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like the Tea Party people, like, at first they came to like protest, like counter protest, but then they kind of just joined in. Like, it was like, oh yeah, we
Yeah.
actually
They were
have
like, oh
like
wait.
a lot of, yeah, like similarities, and they're like, and then they're like, leftist friends are conceding points from them, and then just like there was a lot of at least in Omaha, but um and then
That might be a unique to a red state Occupy experience. Like, I don't know how much of that was happening in New York City and Zuccotti
oh,
Park,
I
but
got it. Yeah, yeah. But like they were coming around to it because like they didn't want to admit that like capitalism was the problem, but they kept naming the symptoms, and I was just
yep.
like, yeah, that like, and that'd be more like, oh, it's the Federal Reserve and like stuff like that. But yeah, it was interesting, and it was also during the 10-year anniversary of the occupation of Afghanistan and Iraq. So
Right.
um, that's the first march I joined, was during that, and just kind of reminded everybody, because like that was, I think, something critical that was overlooked, and so we kind of geared chance towards more anti-imperialist, and
Yeah.
but yeah,
So Occupy was like a blend of digital and print tools in the
yeah,
messaging and communication. There was live streaming happening to allow for real time and even like proactive movements almost as an organism, right? I also
yeah,
remember, something special that came out of that movement and made it into the zeitgeist was the idea of the public microphone, the human microphones.
yeah, the
And
people.
yeah, and when I think about the way that you described it, like this organism that sort of just undulates and modulates around, what is happening, the tactics the police are taking, like even the communication feels that way, right? Like you're literally playing human telephone, but without there being really any loss in the message. It's just like
Yeah.
human echo, if you will. And
And I think they
you know,
originated out of because they took the megaphones away. So the cops took the megaphones, and then they just like started the people's mic right after.
yeah,
You know,
yes,
the
yeah, I
application.
love that. You said though that that these things have been defanged. So I want to
Mhm.
I want to know what you think about this now. Like what happened in that moment with Occupy was unique. It was special to that moment. Obviously, things have changed since.
Yeah,
Companies have fucked with the algorithms. Like, we know
yeah,
the government is working hand in hand with these companies now on these social media platforms, whereas back then they felt a little more decentralized, I guess. So,
yeah.
if Occupy were to happen again today, or let's just talk about the modern resistance today, right? The stuff that you're involved in today. What is the major difference you see in communication tools, how people are organizing, how they're gathering humans, where we really need to be
Yeah.
thinking to be better at what we're doing?
Yeah. Well, I guess I think about like in terms of their response in 2011, 2012, all the big social media companies like Facebook, like that's where it all kind of started. Was Facebook was more popular back then, and like I think as a result of them modifying everything, a lot of people left too. But like what it used to be was anybody with a page could get on the news feed, and then they put a paywall up on it, so that way it was pay to
Mm.
play to get any information out there.
Yeah, Facebook
Um,
went IPO in 2012 and had to start making money.
oh, so that was around the same time. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
And then yeah, but man, that it was like, because that was really critical, because we're getting a lot of exposure through there, and connecting that way. And I of course helped start that website occupytogether.org. I had the idea for it, and I found a web developer to build it for me. And then it was kind of like this map of all the encampments, and so we had that, and that was so what it was is, so you click on the map of like whatever city or location throughout the area. It started out nationally, then it quickly went internationally, because the encampments were all over the world by the end of it.
yeah.
Um, and
And that website was like,
yeah.
as far as activist websites goes, like one of the most popular at the time,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, right. Leading up to what became the largest global protest, October 15th of 2011. Um, occupytogether.org was the 40,000 busiest website on earth for a while. The servers kept
Amazing.
crashing and we couldn't keep it open leading up to it. And like from September to October, we were struggling and throwing all our personal cash into just trying to keep it afloat, just to keep it up because all the traffic was shutting it down. And then the CEO of meetup.org reached out and then like no strings attached, just wanted to help us out. He supported the cause and like he's like, you can use our servers. And then so then in return, of course,
Amazing.
we started using the website too to connect people, and that was a thing. Um,
Like doing meetups for Occupy events or
yeah,
Occupy
we're
movements.
just
Yeah.
organizing through that as well. Because it was just a way of announcing an event and just making it more public. And one of the big ones that come out of that website was it was like where everyone left the bank. I forget the name of the event, but Move Your Money. It was the Move Your Money project, and because all the banks that were complicit, because everyone was really angry about the 2008 financial crash, like the financial coup. The banks, the 13
Yeah.
banks that orchestrated all that in 2008. So all those banks, we encouraged everyone to move their money out of there and put it into credit unions. And I also did. I had a credit union account ever since. So
Same.
um, there's a lot of good reasons too. It keeps they reinvest locally into the economy, and they're not like tucking it away in offshore tax shelters and everything like the Panama Papers disclosed. But
Yeah, that was wild.
but
What do you think what do you think you learned, or what do you think the big lesson from that movement was technologically? To me, it strikes me as the opposition sure learned a lot from that moment and have
yeah,
taken steps to make sure that that kind of organizing can't happen. So they learned a lot. Have what would you say the movement or
mhm,
any subsequent movements? What have they learned from it, or have they learned from it? And
yeah,
what's the path forward technologically? Because I just know that we're all boxed inside of Meta at this point, on the
yeah,
most
yeah,
part, and it's incredibly frustrating. I can tell even with my own account just how throttling it is when you talk
yeah,
about issues they're not too fond of.
yeah. I think a big response is just moving offline. I see it, especially the younger generation. They're doing just more group chats too. I think that's the big thing is Signal group chats has been the most important way of organizing. I think lately, because it's not to be tampered with. It's like and yeah, the because yeah,
Not open to
especially
the public.
organizing. Yeah, and I'm also with Nebraskans for Palestine, and we've seen a lot of online censorship through our accounts and stuff, and it's just ridiculous. Like the level of self-censorship too these days, just to be able to get a post out. It's just
Yep.
like it's changing the way we even use our language, and it's just it undermines our own language, and that's something colonizers have done for a long time.
Yeah.
They yeah.
I was just
But
having an argument with
Yeah.
some folks about this as it relates to, do we tailor our language to understand the algorithms will suppress us if we don't, as an effort to get the message out, or are we capitulating to fascism by patrolling our
yeah,
language? You
yeah,
know,
but like yeah, we're self-censoring. I think it's terrible. Yeah, yeah. There's gonna have to be like I know there was a lot of excitement when because I like the CIA front company Oracle bought TikTok or got
right?
TikTok all the servers, and then there's that mass exodus from TikTok onto Red Note, and that was really exciting because it's like go to a Chinese server, we're safer there, and like, but yeah, unfortunately, I think that kind of it's kind of empty now. It's people didn't really hold on to it. I was hoping that would be the next because I really liked how they it was very simple, no ads, just it was real. Yeah, I liked it. But yeah, I think there has to be something beyond social media. We got to kind of break out of these digital silos we find ourselves in because yeah, like even throughout my entire experience, we're kind of siloed up by the algorithm. So like our common interests, we're only preaching to the choir. It's like
Yeah.
it's better. I think just everyday life, it's more important to communicate with people and and do it that way, and just truly grassroots, just getting back to the fundamentals of it. So,
It's
and
almost like an
print, of course.
accordion experience. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
society goes from, these print tools and offline tools to like, digital and online, and then like it gets too online, and then it has to comes back down again because,
yeah,
your opposition is following you. And in fact, the platforms are now your opposition,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. And that's
Oracle being the servers that TikTok is on is fucking terrible. Like people
yeah,
whom know about some of the Silicon Valley baddies, like I don't enough of them talk about Larry Ellison and Oracle and just like, how much we should be concerned about that in particular.
yeah. Did you see the Google Docs are being self-deleted now? Like activists, Google Docs are just vanishing. Yeah,
Wow.
so we've
Oh,
been
I hadn't
we
heard that.
yeah, we've had to move a lot of stuff off because we just saw it in the news, and like other people's like just so one guy wrote an entire book and it was gone just because it's too political, I guess. Like but
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I had it on there and just vanished. Um
Uh, Okay, well then, so if for any of our listeners out there, I'm sure what they're thinking is, okay, so where the hell do we go then? Okay,
yeah,
so we got to get off Google. You're telling us we can't, we're not really getting any traction on Meta or in any of the
yeah,
bigger social media sites where we're seeing. What are the sites? Signal, of course, but
yeah.
how, yeah, right? Are we talking about WhatsApp? Are we talking about
Well,
just
what the yeah,
iChat, and then where do you start if we're
yeah,
talking about creating small groups, basically
mhm,
creating cells that I guess from an anarchic standpoint, if you create a sort of a decentralized system, then it's a lot harder to break the whole thing down. Where does a local activist, let's say in Nebraska, start or anywhere? And do they start just with their friends and build up from there? Um,
yeah. Well, you say cells like it's like very closed, but it can be open, It's like you could put a signal chat QR code on a flyer and we paste it around town, and like have a, just to start finding your local people that are interested in, and then go from there. But I mean,
mhm,
there's lots of ways to do it, but you got to get creative because anything like you'd mentioned WhatsApp, that's owned by Zionists, and they're monitoring
mhm,
all of that, and
mhm.
so
And Meta owns WhatsApp too.
oh yeah, yeah, there were yeah Zionists too. So yeah, it's like that's why the Palestine activism has really been just like yeah, massive amounts of censorship. So.
Huge,
Um,
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wish I knew the answer. Twitter was my favorite. If we can find something that can like recreate a Twitter that isn't like owned by a fascist, that'd be great.
That would be
Um,
great.
because the power of the hashtag, I think we've lost that. They like I remember just last year, maybe earlier this year, Instagram, they cut out hashtags again. Like that's like there was so much backlash, they actually put it back, and then they just quietly did it again and just got rid of the hashtags. So
Yeah.
yeah, hashtags are I think it's a really universal thing, because like anybody with the same interest, just type in the word or like whatever,
Yeah.
it's like
You can bypass the
uh,
algorithm via hashtags.
exactly. And then they don't want us to do that anymore. So yeah,
Right.
and like and even then they like were throttling they they created like all the results were like just whatever they wanted to show us, and then like you really had to dig and get to the bottom of the list, and then eventually there just wasn't a list. There were so many times where uh like they would like a hashtag would be completely censored, like you could not connect with anybody on that. And then that was prior to them just eliminating the hat, because then it just I could take screenshots and show their contradictions, like, oh well, they claim that here's the hashtag right here in all these posts, but then you try to search it and it doesn't, it's like, and so like I feel like they were just they're being exposed too much on how they censor, so they're just like, let's just eliminate this entire system and just bring us all in closer to the algorithm. So,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah,
if you're wheat papering flyers with like, QR codes to signal chats,
yeah,
I imagine then those groups need to operate with some level of operational security in mind,
sure,
because
yeah,
we already saw in like the 2020 uprising a ton of infiltrators,
oh yeah,
coming in and making peaceful protests turn into what looked like
yeah,
riots, right? Throwing
yeah,
bricks. There were reports of even bricks being prepared by federal officers to be available for people to use and
Yeah.
instigated by federal officers. There were a number of stories here in Denver, even. I think the Westward published a story about an infiltration operation taking place in the George Floyd movements here. So we know that was happening widespread. We know it's been happening since, the Black Panthers and probably before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so what does
I,
that look like in the
I
world
would
of a signal chat?
well, I would think of it as like an open forum that like you're meeting people there, and then yeah, from there you can go to have other chats with more once you get to know people or like meet up with them and like figure out where they stand or whatever, and then kind of go from there, start another group, start another, because you can just have infinite group chats, and just like so
Yeah,
and like
feel like a
the
vetted group, if you will.
honestly, like it's most, I mean, the people who are like they just go in to say some shit and then they just get blocked and they're gone. So like it's like then it's like, okay, well, bye. And then that, because you have control of it, then it's like, and then it's
Yeah.
a lot easier. Yeah. So um but yeah, that's just one idea that comes to mind. But yeah, I think there's like I forget the name of it, but it's like the those chats that work off Bluetooth. That's kind of, I think, a nice fail safe for the future, because maybe things get so wiry that like they shut off the internet like they did in Turkey, and like you could still communicate through Bluetooth with like BitChat and other apps like that, where
Interesting.
yeah, so MeshNet. It's called like MeshNets.
Yep.
So
Okay.
like yeah, you can turn your phone into a mesh network, and then you can also even buy little devices to use as like build like a just a little text. It's just basically like an old school like beeper almost, but it
Right.
has the ability to communicate in like a little group chats that are just basically um whoever's within the range, and then it's your neighbors. It's literally your neighbors is the only ones who would be in the network. Yeah, mesh
Right.
nets are, I think,
Yeah,
are something that people are doing.
there's a whole movement that if anyone's listening to this, you can go online and you can contribute actually to building the mesh net by just and there's instructions on how to go about doing it. There's like where do you find the locations, going into stores saying, hey, do you want to be part of creating this mesh network,
Mhm.
and adding your house to the network as well. And the more
Yeah.
people that are kind of doing individually in their own communities, you can expand out like your neighborhood. Then that neighborhood
Yeah.
connects with another mesh network in the neighborhood nearby.
That's something I think I've there's a lot of them too. So like I think there's going to have to be like a decision on where everyone goes to like which mesh network to use, like
Yeah.
because as far as apps go, I think maybe the mesh nets are maybe more universal, but I know there's apps that kind of tap into that. So, but
We talked with a professor of Nazi fascism about the Nazi rise to power, and one of the main mechanisms was their control of the media and control of communication.
yeah,
Um, I maybe hopefully, maybe optimistically felt that we're probably at a place where such a thing can't happen
yeah,
because of decentralized technology, because of things like mesh nets, which, to be honest, I didn't even know about whenever I had this optimistic feeling. So now I feel even more optimistic. But help level set me here, right? Like, because all these devices exist in places that have very tight control over what is allowed and what is not allowed, or maybe that's just what we hear. We hear
yeah,
China, for instance, has much censorship over what information is allowed via the internet or other factors. There's still quite a bit of control over that culture, it seems, from the outside, so we're told.
yeah.
Is it right to be optimistic about this, right? Like, or do you still see like all of this stuff is still very permeable? Like, it's a way to fight back, but it is not like we shouldn't feel like safe from fascism taking absolute control over the country because of their inability to control technology. Like, help level set me here. What do you think?
Mm. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is like, a billionaire bought Twitter. Musk wants Twitter for a reason. And like control. They are, yeah. right now, the majority of these communications are through social media, and those are actively being tamped down. So, as far as like, book burning and everything, like I think about like the my local half price bookstore corporation. They fill up 2 dumpsters a week full of books. And it's interesting to see what goes in the dumpster and what doesn't. Because like
Yeah,
there's definitely a decision process being made. Like a lot of indigenous studies books in the dumpster, it's like and like stuff like
right.
that. So yeah, history, they're always trying to erase history, so like um and yeah, I think there is reason to be concerned. And I know that like with the internet, we kind of have it does level the playing field a little bit, but like that's what they're actively trying to destroy right now. So like the that ability for us all to communicate, and like it even goes to show like when that moment going on to Red Note, like we kept hearing all these like myths about each other from our respective governments, and then being like, so that isn't true. That isn't true. That is true. And like, 'cause mostly everything we were
Yeah,
learning was like, oh, it's not true. And then like everything they were learning was like, that is true. Oh my God. And just like,
right.
you know, like,
That's
and
funny.
like,
When you
uh,
become aware of your own country's propaganda, it's pretty fucking
yeah,
insane, right?
it really put things into perspective. I was like, wow, we are like way more propaganda, like when no one's immune to propaganda, right? So like, yeah, it's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, we are really in the thick of it here. Like, yeah, I think like what I learned about China's censorship, it was more about like being polite and more about like just treating each other with respect. Like it was like they didn't allow anybody to say the thing, all the you think of the cesspool of Facebook, like none of that would be allowed, like all the racism and all the like
right.
it's just immediately censored. So
So
I
you
mean,
can argue, but be polite about it.
yeah, you can totally debate politics, except on Red Note, you're not allowed to talk about Chinese politics. So like that was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh-huh.
It's like,
I see you.
so I see how that, yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, heard. So, but like they love talking about American politics. It's like,
I'm sure.
yeah. But yeah, I was just like, okay, so like, um, I guess from what I've heard from other activists in China, it's just kind of like they speak in analogies, and it's just like it goes back to that self-censorship thing. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, got to be careful of that. It's a slippery slope. So, yeah.
It is. It is. There's a lot of new language emerging. Some of it I actually kind of find really cute. Like I know it's like a weird circumstance to say this, but to avoid being filtered for LGBTQ conversations, people are saying now leg booty instead of
Oh,
LGBTQ,
really?
which is probably one of my favorite substitutes,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, using watermelons instead of Palestine and having to
Yeah.
use leet speak again, or NOTSEE for Nazi. Like this
Oh,
is all
yeah.
stuff that people are actively doing, and for better or for worse, it does seem to be getting more traction than those of us
Yeah.
who were just using plain language and calling things what they are, and then
True.
suffering the wrath of an algorithmic censorship, right? So or at least moderation. I don't call it censorship necessarily because it's not the
Yeah.
government making a regulated policy, although hard to tell the difference these days, right?
Right.
Between the
Yeah. That's
two.
the thing with fascism. It's merger of corporate and state. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
man.
All right, so we're gonna have Vince, who's been quietly, you know, you know, in the BG here. We're gonna toss it on over to him right now and give us an update on what he's been up to in his travels and his eyes on the heartland of America. So, hey, Vince.
With the Nebraskan guest on today's episode, I want to highlight some helpers that I met on my most recent trip through Omaha. Everybody out there who's seen this for sure is probably familiar with the 50-51 movement at this point. And as an autonomous, loosely organized national coalition of people, there's a lot of different iterations of 50-51 and how they show up in different places. There's statewide chapters, there's town-wide chapters, there's campus chapters on universities, and the Omaha chapter of 50-51. I had the opportunity to meet with them and get to know them a little bit over the last week and see how they interact with other organizations and other activists in Omaha, Nebraska, and across the state. And the way that they do it is they don't center their organization They center the humans that they're assisting. I saw them show up at multiple different events, bringing PA systems, offering medical expertise, offering infrastructure support, and never did I see their logo on any of the signage or any of the advertising, although they did share the events on their social media. And I'm sure that when I go back to my next Omaha 5051 action, all of those people from all of those different organizations will be there supporting them the same way. It's really cool to see people who believe in putting the principles over their marketing and over their branding and showing up and doing the work the way that it's needed and as it's necessary without necessarily having to do it for themselves. And so my helpers highlight this week is for the Omaha 5051 group that I had the great fortune of meeting this week and who I can't wait to see again, honestly. All right, let's get back to the boys.
So thank you, Vince. These helpers highlights are really cool because Vince is literally crisscrossing the Midwest across the nation every single week, finding these stories like a true activist, independent journalist should be, really finding out who is resisting. And every story he's telling is so interesting. It's where we find really cool guests like Aaron today. And if you haven't seen some of the stories he's been sharing, one of the ones that blew my mind was that there are activists in Missouri who have been showing up for 500 straight days protesting the genocide in Gaza. 500 days, right? So talk about commitment. I mean, it's probably not the same people every single day, but like that organization entity is doing some really incredible work and doing it in a super red state. Like that's the thing that blows my mind about all these stories. It's what blows my mind about our conversation here with Aaron is that, I'm here in Denver, Colorado. I've lived in San Francisco. I've lived in Austin, Texas. I've always stayed in these like sort of like blue metro areas. And the thought that there are people doing extreme acts of bravery in these super red states just really, really warms my heart. These American Crossroads is so important. You guys check it out. And if you want to support what Vince is doing, what these American Crossroads is highlighting, and what we're doing here at Find the Helpers, you can donate to us at our fundraiser, which we'll have a link in the description here. But, if you don't have the money to share, which we understand, these are hard times, we will take a like, we will take a follow, we will take a subscribe, we will take a bell smash, we will take a share, right? Like get us out there if you can, because these stories need to be heard. What we're trying to do is provide a playbook to you, your neighbors, your family, your friends who all feel this energy, this need to do something, and you don't know what to do. And we don't know what to do. Christian and I are trying to figure this shit out, right? And talking to people like Aaron allows us to figure that out, allows us to tell you and your people. So do whatever you can to help support us, and we will get more great stories told for you and more of this blueprint on how we are going to resist fascism. Thank you. Thank you for all your support so far.
Yeah. I want to add to that too. If any of the listeners are out there, if there's anyone you want us to reach out to or you might be able to connect us with that you think we should be talking to, reach out to us. We're, like I said, we're both navigating these new times like everyone else. We don't know. A lot of us just don't know what is the next step forward. We know what we're in. The historians are telling us. All the signals out there are telling us that it's not authoritarianism coming at us. It's now here. So we are all a little overwhelmed by this. We want to navigate through it. If you've got anyone that you know that you think might have some information, might have some knowledge, some wisdom, some experience to share with us and would make for an interesting conversation, ping that to us as well, because we'd be interested in talking to them.
Please, please. Much love.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So back to Aaron. Aaron, we've been talking a bit about bravery. I want to talk a little bit about what you're dealing with right now. So you're facing federal charges for a protest you took part in Nebraska. You were run over by a DHS truck, a Department of Homeland Security vehicle. Tell us a little bit about what you can tell us about that story. I know, again, we can't go into the details. And when you get out of said legal sensitive area, hopefully when you beat your case or whatever may come up, we want to bring you back on to talk about more of these details and sort of what that experience was like navigating the legal system because this is also an act of suppression and intimidation by the system for people who stand up against this, right?
Okay. So it was early June. It happened on June 10th, but a few days leading up to that, there was a leak from the local police department saying where ICE was going to be. And so that I think that indicates something too, that even
That's
local
wild.
police are, yeah. So like they had told organizers and everybody where they were going to, and there was three speculations of where they would, but one was actually, or two were actually accurate. So I guess I'll go into of the two that were accurate. So one was Omaha Steaks, and they came after Greater Valley. So what I think is really important to for people to understand too is like, especially like business owners. So the ICE raids were completely squashed by the management of Omaha Steaks. They opened the door when they knocked, and they said, "No, you're actually not allowed in." And like they're like, "Yeah, but it's like you don't have a warrant signed by a federal judge. Bye." And like that's and
Fuck
then they
yeah.
just closed the door, and that was it. And then that was it. And then that like, but they were most people weren't even at work that day anyway because they just like heard about like because the word spread so fast, and that was a lot thanks to signal chats of people just like ice watch type thing, you know, just like because
Yeah.
they had already been in the city back in February, March. Yeah, back in March there was another raid that kind of stemmed a very massive organization, like just like immediately, like everybody in Omaha just immediately started like, hey, we need to like start talking about this and watching what's going on. So yeah, so that I think that's important to know. And then at Greater Valley, of course, it was the opposite. The rumors were going around. People were like talking about not coming to work the next day. And the manager's like, if you don't come to work, you're fired. And like he was the guy who opened the door and let him in, you know, the same guy. So like and
Wow.
yeah, and they I don't know the exact numbers, but there was it was kind of in but it was the largest mass arrest for of ICE in Nebraska history. They had filled like a gigantic bus, like a I don't know, it looked like a tank. It was very like militarized looking bus with like reinforced windows and stuff. But they
Yikes.
filled it, and yeah, and so I heard they were there from another activist who was there, and I got there as soon as I could with a sign on the back of my truck that said "ICE is the new Gestapo," and that was strapped out to the back of the cab. And I
Accurate.
pulled up, yeah, and yeah, more than ever, more like just as time has gone on since then, it's just like yeah, like not like these same detainees from that day they're getting pretrial release for their trial, and ICE is going against the federal judge's orders of releasing
Mm-hmm.
them and holding them without due process still. And like
Yep.
I got pretrial release, but they didn't. And like these are people with like green cards and work visas. Like they lied to the news. They said that like during like there's a video of it happening online. So but like I took a video, and like the officer I was talking to, like the local officer, he's just like, yeah, what about stolen identity? They're all stealing identities. And then there was only one charge of stolen identity out of the 97 people they arrested. So
Yeah.
like yeah, it's crazy. So they want to, and then a majority of these people have no criminal record. Like I think it was only like two people or something. It was like the vast majority are they keep their head to their work in. They're just trying to make a living for their families. And like seeing the people going in, these are like mothers, fathers, children, like 18-year-olds are getting like put on that bus too, you know, and like
Yeah.
um and then worse yet, I don't know if they even had trial yet or how this worked or if they were like why they were deported so soon, but a large group of them were loaded up on cargo planes at our local military Air Force base and just sent out. And so like they're just gone already. Like
I've seen video of this shit. It's horrifying. They're just like sitting
yeah,
on the bottom of a cargo bay in a
yeah,
plane. They don't have like seats. They don't have special,
yeah,
harnesses, nothing.
yeah. Yeah.
And they're being sent to sometimes countries that they're not even from. They have no relationship to at all.
Yeah,
Um,
did you see with
yeah,
Kilmar or Abrego Garcia, they're gonna send him to Uganda now? Like
Right.
yeah,
that's insane. Like
yeah.
it's retribution for one thing, but like
Yep.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
doing it. This is it's a the the purpose is to create fear. Fascism works in creating a sense and an environment of fear where people are then afraid to act or they're afraid to
Mhm.
come to a country. They're afraid. I mean, Canadians themselves, there's 150 Canadians right now in ICE detention from last calling. And uh, just look at tourism. Vegas is begging. The most
Yeah,
pathetic thing I saw
yeah.
yesterday of this, representative of Vegas saying it's now down to a trickle where it was used to be just a fire hose of Canadians down in Vegas. It's now a trickle. This is
Mhm.
going to be affecting Americans and the economy and Americans on the ground and tips. And it's just,
Yeah.
but this environment of fear is intentional. That is the whole point.
Yep.
They are hoping that this will then prevent people or from coming onto the country. They don't understand that, you know, immigration's like water. You can have too much or you can have too little. You have too much, you have a flood, you're overwhelmed. You have too little, you die, the food dies, and you got nothing to eat.
Yeah.
So we've got to find that balance. And right now we are nowhere near that balance. This fear that they're creating is going to basically, this is a stepping on the rake moment for
Yep.
America.
Cruelty is the point,
And
right? Like I think the people who
cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, people who argue against the claim that what is happening in Gaza is genocide will say things like, well, if Israel was actually intent on committing genocide, they would just kill everybody in a second because they have all the weaponry to do it. And they're missing the point of what genocide is, which is cruelty to create fear and suppress the population.
Yeah.
So the cruelty is always the point. They will be very
Mhm.
inventive about how cruel
Mhm.
they can be, including taking somebody who is an American citizen and deporting them to some crazy country they have absolutely no relationship to. I don't
Yeah.
There
say
have been
crazy in the
deport.
sense that the country's problem, but that has no
Yeah,
relation to them. That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, and the budget's going up something from 9 billion for ICE up to 27 billion in
Yeah.
this new bill, and then a lot of it is just going to be hiring 10,000 new ICE agents. Right now, the ICE agents, somewhere around 20,000 of them work in ICE, much like in the FBI. The population of that is about 20,000. 7,000 of the ICE agents are actual boots on the ground. They're looking to add an additional 10,000. The problem they're having with is retention, which there's some light, if you can call that a glimmer in there, is that
Yeah.
those who are working for ICE are a lot of them are keeping quiet about what they're doing to their neighbors because even though their neighbors may have voted for it, they're not really liking what they're seeing. And so
Yeah.
people who are working for ICE are kind of keeping it quiet within their communities because it's not a good look. And
People are
I
getting
think that's why
aggro.
they're getting
Stay aggro
aggro,
on ice.
and a lot of the money that they're going to be that this is allocated for is just retention. So just more wages,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
equipment, more
They're
toys for them
they're
to,
forgiving
you
their
know,
student debt, ICE
yeah,
Right.
agent. It's
Which
like
is
it's like that really pisses a lot of people off. It's like no,
it gets
the
me.
fascist jackboots get their student debt forgiven. Okay,
Ooh,
and like
right.
yeah, I heard
Yeah.
that the new ICE budget dwarfs that of the U.S. Marines. So it's going to
yeah.
be like just to put into perspective, like yeah, it's going to be a full on occupation of this country. So
It's a larger budget. The overall 10-year budget is larger than every other military in the world besides United States and China.
wow,
That's how
Well,
big it
yeah,
that's
is.
depressing to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah.
yeah, and
Like,
Palantir is
It,
really banking off that too.
yeah.
Those because that's
mhm.
why they're always pulling their phones out, that facial recognition software, putting everybody in a database, a centralized database. So
So going back to your story, Omaha Steaks resists. Greater Valley complies in advance. A full of people are detained and arrested and shipped off, probably
mhm.
to some concentration camp nearby. What happens next?
I I pulled up and had my sign in the back, and I went to go protest and make some noise, and it was just basically arguing with the officers about like what they're like, oh, we're just here for public safety. It's like, no, you're complicit in this. Like, and they're like, there's actually, I saw some like body language to indicate some shame from some of the officers. Like, they definitely weren't proud of what they were doing. And but then so the ICE officers were coming out, and I was still arguing with an officer about like what they're actually arresting them for, and because he was saying stolen identities. And then I I had my head turned and I was in the road talking to him, and then just out of nowhere this SUV just comes, like the other cop that was standing next to me on my right, he had sidestepped it, and I saw from other videos he just kind of waved him through when he saw me with my head turned. And then just like there was there's three other co-defendants with me that from that day. And but two of them were also ended up on the push bar of the vehicle, because we didn't want to be under it. So like um I so he rams us initially, then stops, but he as soon as he stops, he's revving his engine. So like I was gonna try getting out of the way, but then as soon as I heard the engine rev, I was like, oh shit, like I can't, I'm not gonna have enough, I don't want to break my leg face, because if my knees were turned away, they would bend the wrong way.
Yeah.
So like I just I faced it, and then like I just jumped straight up, and then he rammed into me, and then I fell into the hood of the car. And then they stopped again to get me off the hood, but I was already like jumping off. As soon as I jumped off, another one almost hits me, like coming around. Um and then I turn and I see that the first one had just, she was holding on to the push bar. And like that officer or whatever he is, because like who knows, they never even,
Right.
they left town. That my arresting officer actually told me that they weren't even from here, that they were actually like just like a roving band of fascists that just go and arrest people. So like they were already in I think Colorado by the time I was arrested, which was 2 days later. So
Wow.
and he said that like the day prior they were in Minnesota. So but
Well, that's intentional because it's a lot easier to arrest people and to dehumanize people if they're not your neighbors. We know
yeah,
that with
yeah.
police forces. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and especially in terms of accountability, because like
Hmm.
they are, like they don't, that's why they're masked. They don't want to be held
Right.
accountable for their actions. And they were all masked. That's how I could tell the difference while I was there. Is like, oh my God, this is like they look like movie depictions of a terror. It's like they got their like
Yeah.
tactical vests on, but like none of them are matching. They just like it's very hodgepodge. Like it was weird. And but yeah, so they hit me, and then yeah, from there I just eventually I just went home. And but then I noted by the time I was even home, they were already surveilling the house. Like I'd recognize the tinted windows and like the it's like that car's never been on the block. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, and then like there's just, they didn't have plates and then tinted windshields and like, but they were there for a few days. And I just was just kind of thinking like, well, gonna go to go for a bike ride, and this might be it. And like it was.
So what, you went for a bike ride to for a coffee, and then they
Oh, just
picked you
got,
up on the way?
yeah. And like I didn't know they were cops either, because like they had those tactical vests on and unmarked vehicles, and they didn't announce that they were police. Like so because I was scared. I thought it might have been like a right-wing militia of some sort.
Right.
Because I was just in the news, and like um but as soon as he said police, I stopped, and then I got tackled into a fence and like went through a privacy fence. But um yeah,
Wow.
and then they charged me like charged me with a federal felony property destruction initially. And then by the time I got my lawyer, because I decided I didn't want to go with the public defender, and
Yeah.
a really great lawyer came to help. And as soon as I retained him, they immediately dropped that to two um, federal misdemeanor charges, one for property destruction and another for imposing, impeding, intimidating, were assaulting a federal officer doing in their federal duties. I never had contact with a person, so I don't know how that's possible, but that'll be just that'll be figured out. But
Imposing, intimidating, or impeding.
yeah,
Or assaulting. I love how they cluster the
it's all just
Uh-huh.
one
weakest
charge.
with
Yeah,
the largest into one
That's
charge
right. When
because
you
our brains will assume, well, the possibility was an assault. We hear assault. That is
yeah,
bullshit.
yeah. That's
it's
literally how the
anchoring,
charge.
right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's like yeah. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm pretty nervous about it
Sure.
because maximum penalty well, for each one is up to 1 year, and then for both it'd be max 2 years with max 2 year probation and max like 200,000 max $200,000 fine. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I
They have a lot of proof they have to bring up to keep those charges in place, I'd imagine. I mean,
yeah
property destruction is a very
yeah
specific term that when you run someone over, you can hardly argue, I would hope.
yeah yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's why I got a good lawyer. I'm feeling hopeful. And it's just like if any damage was done, it's like not at my fault. Like I just like my I'm sorry I headbutt the hood when you hit me. Like what? Like it's almost like I got charged for not being under the vehicle, you know? It's like cuz it could have very easily been that, you know? It's like
Right?
um and then the brave co-defendants too like I can't speak too much to their case either, but like um Osmar is in a lot hotter water than me, and I really worry for him. He's facing 10 to 20 years, and
Wow.
for allegedly throwing a rock, like and calling that assault with a deadly weapon, and it's just it's crazy. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Reminds me of the IDF defense of shooting kids when they throw rocks at
yeah,
Yeah.
military vehicles.
yeah,
That's just coming here. How can the audience support you and the other co-defendants here? Is there a place that they can donate to the defense or find other ways that they can lend their voice and support?
yeah. I know Osmar and his girlfriend, who's also a co-defendant, they have a GoFundMe. I can get that link to you, sent to you.
Right.
I also have a GoFundMe. Um, yeah, it's been a big help already. It helped pay the rent while I was locked up before I got my pretrial release. It kept my bills paid while I was gone and out of work. So yeah, I can share those with you. Maybe you can do a link in the show notes or something.
We'll make sure we drop that link in the show notes for anybody who's watching and throw it out when we promote this on Instagram. That way we can try to hopefully generate as much donation support as possible to beat this bullshit.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. That means a lot to me.
So,
Yeah.
here we are, find the helpers, and when you when we hear your story about basically you got assaulted by a vehicle, but you're being charged by assaulting by assaulting property. That's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
It's
So fucking
it
banana
is
sandwich.
it's
Yeah.
bananas, but that is actually that is also the bully playbook, the fascist playbook all around is that they do the
Projection.
offense and then they play the victim, right?
Hmm.
And this is Trump does this. The Republicans do this. They're always playing victim when in fact they're just projecting what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so what does this mean for you from activism standpoint, from continuing on? I mean, courage, right? I was thinking about this the other day that you know, here you've got these massive budgets, these militarized police forces and these organizations. These guys are all kitted up like they're playing, Rainbow Six on their fucking, Xboxes. They're all playing a part, and they love their toys, and they're going to want to use those toys, and they're all looking for an excuse to use them, and they're incredibly well armed. And I think about bravery, and they think they're the brave. And when I think of the people like you, and I see the imagery of unarmed citizens going up against this behemoth of militarization, and yet these cosplay douchebags think they are the brave is absolutely bananas to me, because the brave are those who are going up against this Goliath. And
Yeah.
what would you say to people who are listening? Because some people might go, oh my God, well, this guy is now worried about his family, about his income, about his rent. This is the fear that they want us to feel. How do you keep going after something like this? Or what
Yeah.
would you tell them? What would you tell
Well,
them right now?
I've just been absolutely stunned on. I've never felt so much love for my community in my entire life, and I'm born and raised here in Omaha, and just like getting out, like there was so many care packages on the porch, and I felt very taken care of through all of this. Like I was really worried about like losing my house and and everything like that, and like just everyone pulled together and came to my aid. It does help that I had an arrest plan, like just being a long-term activist. Like we have systems in place for if anyone gets arrested, who call, and then it creates like a phone of different instructions to whatever needs to be taken care of time. But like
Mhm.
but yeah, it just it worked. The plan worked, and like just in terms of making sure that we were covering our bases afterwards. And I'm fortunate enough that I own my own business, so like I wasn't worried about being fired or anything from anywhere. So like, but I know other people are in that situation where that can be tough. But that though, like the GoFundMe was a lifesaver. Like because they want to isolate us and create that like I think that's the best way to fight is when we collectivize and like you said earlier about how like their main tool is fear, and showing fearlessness I think is kind of just they crumble, like because they're just like it's just because it's just like there's so many regular people out in the street now, like I've just seen, and that's actually what inspired me too, is just seeing like how like out in LA and everything, and how they're just not putting up with it. They're making like Ventura, California, I think was the most interesting, where like the fire trucks were blocking ICE vehicles and not letting them through and into their town.
Hell
And
yeah.
like it's a very community effort. This is something that it's a unanimous thing, It's like there's so many people from all walks of life that are against this, that I think just like new levels of solidarity are arising in this country. So yeah, I think it's about preparation a little bit to being prepared to be arrested, to take actions like this. But yeah, I think for me it just felt necessary because I mean, I wasn't prepared. Like I wasn't actually mentally going in there thinking I was going to get arrested. I always know that's a possibility, but I was just planning on just making a ruckus, making some noise, and then just going home, and that'd be it. But the way things rolled out, like it panned out, just the circumstances. Like I didn't expect to be ran over, so like wasn't planning on that. But
Right.
yeah, so and especially didn't expect like I was expecting charges only because of the surveillance afterwards, but like it didn't seem reasonable, like to like. But then again,
Yeah.
like it's like yeah, yeah, it's like they're setting the bar for their authoritarianism though. So like I guess to a
Yeah.
degree I could have expected it, but um yeah, and there's other ways. It doesn't have to be like putting your body directly on the line like that. There's I think ice watches are really important. Like there's people are just staying because it doubles as being in communication with your neighbors. And like it's all about community building, because that's what they want to destroy. They want to isolate each of us into individuals, and the because we're stronger together. And
Yeah.
that's the main takeaway I think to have from this. And it's meeting your neighbors is a revolutionary act. Go knock on their door and like start talking to them. And you may not have like your politics are never going to be perfectly aligned, but it's all about finding the humanity in each other. And as long as that person has humanity, I think that's an important factor, and that and see them as an ally in this. So yeah.
I have a close friend. He lives in Northern California, in a red area of Northern California. He's Asian. His whole family's Asian, and they're they're left, and everyone around them, all their neighbors are MAGA. And um, one of the interesting things that he and I talk about is how he's formed neighborly relationships with people that they fundamentally disagree on politics. And it's gotten
Yeah.
contentious from time to time, but like they rely on each other to look after each other's kids, right? Like they rely on each other for a lot of the community staples we often as neighbors rely on each other for. Before social media, before politics became a divisive topic, before it became the differentiator between those with empathy and those without. Um, and it's just a man, I grapple with that, like
Yeah.
because there's so many people who are like, you voted for and empowered racism, xenophobia, bigotry,
Yeah.
fascism, the harming of our neighbors, right? You supported that. How can I possibly be your friend and neighbor? And
Mhm.
I don't have answers to that question. I just know that at some point we're all going to be hanging out in the same communities again together. And
Yeah.
maybe hopefully soon, but maybe even in 20, 30 years when all of this finally, when the pendulum swings back to us being, if it ever does, reasonable, sensible, maybe a little bit less fucking scary.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to have these neighbors back in our lives again. These 70 million Trump voters still are going to be here, right?
Mhm.
And there's just something about understanding the humanity next to somebody in your neighborhood, in your community. Again, I'm not preaching something I practice yet,
Yeah.
but I see this is an obstacle we're gonna have to overcome eventually. We're not there
Yeah.
yet. We're in the war right now, but like I love that even still in the war, you're like, talk to your neighbors, have real
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
It's
And like
hard
you
but
can,
important.
yeah, and you can debate. I still debate them. I don't backslide on my politics at all. I'm completely open about who I am, and that's kind of how it's like. I let them feel that like if they're fully reactionary and they say something just like if they want to like make threats, then they're like, okay, good, now I know who you are, and like just like
Yeah.
or but yeah, yeah, it's pretty mixed bag in my neighborhood too, and like like I think just because of my whiteness, this one neighbor comes up to me and is just like, "Oh yeah, you gotta look out for that guy. He's a real fascist, or what do you say? He's a racist." And he's like, he's a racist." I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And he's like, "Why is that?" And he's like, "Oh, he just flies these crazy flags." I'm like, "What's the flag say?" And he looked back and I'm like, "What's the flag say?" And then he wouldn't tell me, and he's like, well, he didn't like my Marine flag. I was like, okay, but what did his flag say? And then he wouldn't tell me, and then I go up to them, I'm like, oh, I'll just go up to the yard and look at it, and so because it's like from the back, and it said resist fascism. That's what the flag said, and and I was just like, how does that make him racist? And I was like,
What?
it was like, it was like
You were in the Marines, bro. The Marines fought the fascists. What are you
yeah,
doing?
I
Clearly, there
know.
wasn't a lot of wind that day because he only saw the ism and assumed it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
racism and not
Just a
fascism.
flag that says racism.
yeah. Even if it said resist race, yeah, it's like, come on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
That is
Yeah.
funny.
But
That is
yeah,
funny.
I think he misjudged me too, so just kind of like, yeah, just assumed I was like a conservative guy. It's just like, oh no, it's like you're surrounded, bud. It's
Yeah.
like, but that's just Omaha. We're lucky to have the so-called blue dot. But yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing with me is just like I'm just as upset with liberals as with conservatives, because like under Biden, like the genocide started for a year under Biden, and like
Yep.
I was
Yep.
disrupting
Mhm.
what's his name, the VP candidate for Kamala.
Oh, Tim
Uh,
Walz.
yeah, I was at the Tim Wal. I disrupted the Tim Waltz rally, blew a whistle on the genocide, and because yeah, I'm gonna stand for
Awesome.
justice wherever it is, because like I think there's too much allegiance to party politics, and we're not thinking about like what the overall like staying true to like our personal values and morals, because I know most people are against genocide, but like there's this like oh, but it's like Trump's going to be worse. It's like, yeah, I know, but like if you don't acknowledge your faults, you're going to get Trump. So like then that's what
Right.
happened, you know. Like
Yeah.
so they that's what I was upset at because like they could have won if like I think that was a big deciding factor in the election,
That's
you
right.
know.
The
So
Mhm.
DNC not allowing the uncommitteds to take the stage and talk about the
yeah,
importance of the Palestinian issue.
yeah,
Harris's campaign tacking right rather than left where they needed to tack. You know,
yeah,
even with the late entry, even with the lack of primary process and like all of the things that were complaints, I think that there was crucial missteps made when it came to
yeah,
them not embracing the left and not talking about Palestine and just perpetuating that policy. Like
yeah,
there was no inspiration there for anyone on
yeah,
the left to want to vote. And I think that's a lesson that, if the Democrats are going to have any relevance in the future, they have to learn very fucking quick. Right. We've
yeah.
got signals, we've got canaries out there like Mamdani who are proving that the left is popular, that these policies or whether the Democrats need to go, that they absolutely have to counter the right now
Mhm.
to such a degree that they move left rather than trying to cater to the middle right. And they still keep trying to cater to the middle right. They're still trying to
Yeah.
quiet, Mamdani's win and suppress its potential. So like, yeah, it's hopefully a lesson that they'll learn moving forward, but I don't know if they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a, and I know we're coming to the end of this, but I think it's a lot about bravery, right? And bravery is not that you're not afraid. Bravery is that you are terrified, but you still do the right thing. Courage, the root comes from the heart, cœur in French, of the heart, right? And that you know the thing that you are diving into could harm you, but because you're leading with your heart, and that heart might be to help others, that is courage. And I think, what you're doing, the small things, if anyone out there, is wondering, how to even the smallest things that make you nervous, if it makes you nervous to do it, that's an indicator of maybe that's where you need to go, because that's where the courage lies. It's in the places that feel uncertain, scary. They might threaten your job, your placement in the community, but maybe that's what you need to be looking at, and going forward into that. And it can be in everything from the small things. I know that for me, small things like posting online. I know it seems so small and almost in a way pathetic, but what it does is your ability and your saying it is an indicator to someone else that they have permission to say it as well. Saying the words fully
Yeah.
instead of shortening them and trying to change language, maybe that's
Yeah.
another way of saying it's a genocide instead of calling it a G-side or calling it
Yeah.
let's call it what it is. These are acts of bravery which will have that contagious effect that you are talking about, and I know to be true because it was watching the acts of courage that gave me the courage to be loud and put myself in an awkward position with some people and have to, get some interesting DM messages, or people, or maybe even losing some friendships and some
Mhm.
professional people in my life. And that's,
Yep.
I look at it as separating the seed from the chaff now. And
Yeah.
for all the people that I've lost, I've gained incredible community with people that I feel have integrity, and have courage and have bravery.
Yeah.
So.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people say that like protests don't do anything, I often counter with protests show other people that other people are standing up,
Hmm.
right? Like if
Yeah.
that's the only thing the protest does, it has made an impact. Because if I see somebody doing something that I'm afraid of, and there's a lot of them doing it, maybe I'm not afraid of it as much. Or
Yeah.
maybe I join and I still am a little nervous. I still am a little afraid. I stay in the safe zones of those things, but I'm walking the streets. My feet are on the pavement. So the
Hmm.
next time it comes up, I'm gonna be a little less afraid. I
Hmm.
remember one of my the first protest I took part in during 2020, we took the freeway. And I had no fucking clue that was going to happen. I didn't know the group I was protesting with. I was just like, I had been laid off. I was feeling anxious. I had a kid coming on the way. All of this was happening, right? Like the uprising was happening, and there was a protest in Palo Alto, California, near where I lived at the time. I show up, and it's being led by teenagers. And they had thousands of people following them. And then they just like diverted to the freeway, and like 50 of us seemed game. You know, everyone else was like, well, what the fuck? We didn't know we were getting into this. And there was cops trying to block the entrance on their bikes. And I was scared shitless because I just hadn't prepared. You know what I mean? Like I was like, fuck, I've never been on the freeway before. And like just followed these teenagers. You know, I'm like a fucking 40-year-old following teenagers onto the interstate. And all of a sudden instinct starts taking place, and we stay huddled together. We stay in organisms so that they can't pick us apart. We start like securing each other and protecting each other. And we made it down this freeway. These 50 people stopped the 101 in California
Cool.
and made people listen to what they had to say for just that moment. And those people in traffic that were waiting, that were on the other side of the freeway, that were seeing some of these kids jump out of the organism and start running around through traffic and like, you know, evading the police. They eventually got arrested because they left the organism, right? Like,
Yeah.
but seeing all that happen, like, made it so much easier to do again. And it made it so much easier for other people to do it again. And it kept happening and it kept happening, right? Bravery is
Mhm.
contagious. That's kind of the whole point of this conversation, I think. And yeah, man, I really appreciate you for what you're doing, for standing up, for the people in your group who are continuing to stand up and commit these acts of bravery so people like us can feel braver doing it again next time. And people
Yeah.
watching can feel brave to do it for their first time if they haven't yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Thank you.
let's talk about our highs and lows for the week, Christian. What has been your high or low this week?
I'm going to say the low has was watching some medical workers, emergency workers, and a journalist get blown to bits in Palestine. It was a second tap operation, which, if anyone knows what a second tap is Russia uses this technique of they'll launch a missile at a certain location, and then they'll know that about 15 to half hour afterwards, the medical and emergency teams will be there, and they will send another missile towards that to wipe them out as well. And this is against everything in terms of the rules of war. And seeing that live was distressing, but just made it all the more clear of just that the current state of Israel is basically like Russia. It's an
Yeah.
interesting bedfellow, these two. And when you look at how they are conducting themselves and the history of how they conduct themselves, particularly with Russia, it seems that Israel is has taken a playbook, and that was a real low for me to watch that, and of course to watch Israel looking to say, oh, it was just a mistake that we double tapped the same exact location. The absurdity of it all is
Yeah.
just, I just
The cruelty.
that's it. That's a low. It's cruelty. It's cruelty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep, low point.
Yeah. What about your high? Did you have a high point? You don't have
My
to
high
focus on
point.
it. I have a high, not a
My high.
low, for what it's worth.
My high point, and I had said this earlier, is I'm still in. It is. I'm getting to know my country again in Canada, and the friendliness and the cheerfulness of the people, and that it's just it. I'm feeling like being in Canada is touching grass, and I
Mm,
would say to anyone out there who can go and touch grass by getting into another country for a little bit, even to go and visit, go travel if you can. Get out of this craziness right now so that you can feel maybe some hope in humanity again by seeing that although these other countries are aware and are anxious about what's going on, there is kindness and there is integrity and there's a lot less corruption, and that there is hope out there, and there are people that are rooting for us as when I say America, and rooting for humanity out there. And I would say, yeah, get out there, touch some grass,
yeah.
get out of the country if you can for a sec or two. Yeah.
Say my high point this week, which actually works really well in tandem with some of the stuff we've been talking about with you today, Aaron, is that we decided to start creating a zine for Find the Helpers. This is still to be done, right? Like we're probably a month or two or three or who knows how long away from actually having one. But I'm an artist and I don't do art enough, and so sometimes I need like an assignment to force me to do it. whether I'm gifting somebody something at the end of the year or taking a class that I have to produce art for. Like I just kind of need someone telling me to do something. And so for whatever reason, but Christian and Vince and I talked about producing a zine. So I started drawing pictures in my little sketchbook. I have like this tiny little sketchbook that I just draw ideas on. And my wife's a writer, and she once heard this advice to write 200 shitty words a day. It doesn't matter what those words are, but if you build the habit of writing 200 shitty words a day, eventually you'll have a novel and maybe a masterpiece, right? So like, just do the habit. And so I started drawing one shitty drawing, and now I'm working on a less shitty drawing that is a different version of the same thing. And then I'll probably do a third, even less shitty drawing that may be a good drawing that becomes the magazine cover. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I've loved zine culture from sort of the punk rock space that I come from, and knowing that it's not just alive and well, but that it's actually like a really solid, useful tool right now in the resistance is really cool. And it feels like, okay, well, if I've loved zines for this long, it's probably about time to commit some pen to paper and actually get one created. So so that's been great. It's been inspiring to work on some art again. If you have the proclivity to do art, I highly suggest it. What it accesses in your brain, like scratching on paper, like that tactile feeling. Interacting with paper seems to be I don't know, Christian, like a constant theme that comes up in almost every single one of our episodes, no matter who we're talking to. So that's probably a lesson for us to take coming out of this, right? Aaron,
Yeah,
what would you
touching
say
grass,
is
touching paper.
touch grass, touch paper? That's right. Some paper used to be
Yeah.
made out of grass, so maybe if you can find
There you go.
parchment or papyrus,
Hemp,
work with that.
hemp paper. That's
There
touching
you
grass.
go. There you go. Aaron, what would you
Uh-huh.
say, high or low? What would you like to focus on this week?
Hi this weekend. My kids and I had a really nice weekend. Just out with my new partner. So she's great, and it just
Awesome.
things are going really good there. So just really happy about my new relationship. So
Hell yeah, man.
yeah,
Congrats.
Love.
I'll
yeah,
give you some
thank you.
Yes.
hearts. I got the magic.
All
All right,
Put
so
myself
we
on
have
mute.
some upcoming events coming on. We have the Yellow Scene Gala. You've probably heard us talk about this a little bit, but since it's happening October 16th in Louisville, Colorado, we figured we'd keep telling you about it. Those of you who are local to Colorado or happen to be apt to travel, highly suggest you come check this out because it's a really great benchmark. Yellow Scene's an independent journalist publication that will be celebrating its 25th year in existence, doing the actual work that matters when it comes to journalism, real community reporting. These American Crossroads and Find the Helpers are being platformed here. So this is the kind of independent local journalism we need to see to really combat fascism. And Yellow Scene making it 25 years is quite a testament, quite a milestone. If you are able to come or support it, proceeds are going to help support Yellow Scene, with most of those proceeds going to staff and operations and KGNU's long-standing award-winning journalism, all of those deductions of which are tax deductible. So if you're available October 16th, 2025 from 5 to 9 p.m., check it out at the Louisville Underground in Colorado. Secondly, I wanted to mention These American Crossroads is publishing a piece that is from Nebraska. There was a couple events took place that are going to be covered in this one piece that you should check out. First was the Jewish Voice for Peace dinner, where they did a Torah study to talk about how Jews can stand up against the genocide in Palestine, and then also held a 5K. The Hens 5K for Palestine, which was to honor a child who was murdered by the IDF quite brutally. And at the 5K event, they actually FaceTimed with her mother to talk. And so that's all going to be covered in Vince's next piece in These American Crossroads. So definitely check it out, read it, share it, love it. And then, if you can, contribute to the fundraiser.
All right, folks, we're wrapping this up, and we're still practicing this. This is a learning process, so thank you for your patience. Remind people to share, subscribe, like, follow, continue the conversation, and contribute at yellowscene.com.
One of the things that we want to be able to do every time that we have one of these great interviews is sort of recap, right? Like, what did we learn? What can you take away from this? What can you do right now, today, to learn from and action upon the lessons that we just heard this time from Aaron in Nebraska? And we covered a lot of ground, right? One of the interesting things I found is that digital communication and the way that we find it most convenient is no longer a reliable form of active organizing, of finding out what's happening in your community, of speaking out about the things that you want to speak out about. You should still do them, right? Posting to Instagram's easy. We all do it. We do it to promote our podcast, right? So it's not that you should stop doing those things, but start thinking a little bit more locally about how we're communicating. Signal is a great tool, it seems, for organizing, and lots of different Signal groups are happening on the local level, on the national level, that you can join and even spin up yourself. You might find yourself in a community where there still isn't somebody leading or organizing the movement, and you can just start that by, printing out some flyers, putting a QR code to a Signal group chat, and pasting those around town and seeing how many people join it, right? Start talking about what you could be doing, right? You might not have a leader or organizer in your space. Become those people as a community, as a group, become tight knit, and find out how you can make, an impact on a local level. This also includes Ice Watch, right? So one of the most valuable things that I think we learned here was that the Ice Watch Signal chat that Aaron was tapped into in Nebraska helped them to organize to prevent workers from being detained, and allowed the organizers to know when to show up, where to show their resistance. This is really, really important, right? There's intel being leaked, apparently even by the fucking cops of all people, to tell us where ICE is going to mobilize, where they're going to detain, and we can get ahead of this. We can be proactive. The smaller that we stay in these group chats, the more informed we stay on the local level. So know when ICE is showing up, show up, lend your voice, lend your body if you can, and help the employees of those companies that ICE is coming to raid know ahead of time so that they can avoid work, avoid detention. The other thing that I thought was really great was the story of Omaha Steaks. The owner did not comply in advance. If you've listened to our previous episodes, or if you're going to go back and check them out, you'll hear a common theme in each one of them. Do not comply in advance. Do not comply in advance. This is so important for us to understand that while it's scary that they're trying to force us to comply, all it sometimes takes is the owner of one business saying, no, fuck you, you're not allowed in here, and closing the door. ICE didn't blow up the building. ICE didn't arrest him. They could not come in because they knew that that was not allowed. What they're counting on is you complying in advance. They want to intimidate and scare you so much that you don't think you have an option. You don't have the right to resist. You don't have the right to tell them no. Right? So find those business owners who align here, find the Omaha Steaks in your community, and inform them what they can and cannot do. Tell them where they can put notices up inside their space. I saw some great advice from what you can do in a restaurant where, while the front of house is public, the back of house is private. And if you put up signs that say only employees are allowed back here, ICE cannot enter those spaces. And the owner can say, you're not allowed in those spaces. That is employee only. That is private. And they're not allowed to go there, right? That's what not complying in advance looks like. And it's a very easy way to do it that you can make a huge impact now to prevent deportations happening of your neighbors and your fellow citizens. So don't comply in advance. Get on Signal chats, know when they're coming, be there to stop them, be there to resist, even if it means you might catch a charge, because there will be a support network that will be there to help you if you organize correctly. Build an arrest plan, which I need to learn the lesson of, right, myself. But Aaron had an arrest plan. His network had an arrest plan. They were ready for legal services. They were ready for who to call whenever this would go down so that they could still lend their voice and resist. And I think these are all things we can do right now, today, to start building the right kind of resistance in our communities. We need to resist fascism, to fight back, and to help our neighbors, right? This is the playbook. So if you take anything away from this conversation, it's that. Organize locally, stay in Signal, know when ICE is coming, resist, do not comply in advance, and teach business owners how not to comply in advance. Teach your neighbors how not to open the door so they know they don't have to comply in advance either. Thank you guys so much for watching. From Find the Helpers, I'm Brad Bogus.
And I'm Christian Campbell.
And we'll see you next time.
Find the Helpers Pod is a production for Yellow Scene Magazine. Our executive producer is Vince Chandler. Our hosts are Christian Campbell and Brad Bogus. And our music is by Mark Wilson X. Don't forget to share this episode.